circling back to Zach LaVine,
Flex.
the big name that is still here. I mean, what did you make of the fact that before he started fielding questions, Zach made a statement that didn't necessarily sound like a prepared statement, quote unquote? It sounded like it was coming from the heart, but it sounded like a handful of thoughts that Zach made a point to organize ahead of time to address all of the various rumors and drama that was attached to his name last season and throughout this offseason.
Yeah, it was about 2+ minutes long, so I don't have the whole thing transcribed here, but I mean, I was really impressed with the way that he handled that. And
very much so.
I didn't really think about, I just kind of was like, okay, I wonder if this is going to be awkward. Is this going to be uncomfortable? What's going on here? But when he came out and said, like, let me go first, before anybody asked any questions, and he just said, like, look, I've been gone for a long time. I'm injured. I'm healthy. I'm happy to be here. But most of all, like, I've had a chance to reflect on myself and, this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, he kind of said, look, there's going to be stuff that you guys, I'm sure, want to ask that I'm not going to be able to answer. There's stuff that, like, I just don't want to talk about. I want to leave in the past. I really respected the way that he handled that. And I thought that was, like, the right message to put across in this kind of situation. I think he used the opportunity well to kind of set the boundaries. And look, the situation is what it is. I don't think anybody needs to say it out loud for us to know what is going on here. And so I think the way that he managed that and kind of got his point across to set the expectation for how he's going to be talking about it. He said, look, if there's something that you guys need to hear, it'll come from me directly. It'll come from my representation, or it will come from the team. Like, this is what it is. But for now, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to take on whatever role and it was just the professionalism that we've come to know Zach, but I thought really refreshing. And like I said, really respected the way that he handled that.
Yeah, I loved it. Just watching his body language for me was different this time. Like, the way he was speaking, like you said, Will, it really felt like it was from the heart. Yeah. It was just more personable. Like, he really was just trying to have a conversation and tell you really what he really felt. And I like those moments where it feel like a player is letting you in, you know what I'm saying, to that psyche. Because like he said, he was like, I'm good. Listen, he's like, well, I got a beautiful wife. I got beautiful kids. You know what I mean?
Nice
like,
contract
is smooth. You know what I mean? Life is good, But I love playing basketball. And he talked about the many teammates he's had. He talked about the many head coaches that he's had.
Yeah.
And finding
he
his
knew
way
the exact
through that.
number of teammates.
Yes. Was it 125? I think he said.
It was in the hundreds.
127?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
And 6 head coaches, I believe he said. Yeah, man. Like, just
one of whom we shouldn't count, but that's beside the point.
You got that right. But but it was just great to hear him be that personable, man, and that honest. And I love when players, get to do things like that. So when those questions came up to him about, the future, he's like, look, I can't really answer that for y'all right now. I like how he said, if I had a crystal ball, it'd be a lot of things I would be saying right now. So I loved it. I agree with you, Will, 100%. I thought it was great.
Perdue is somebody who spent time in this league and had to deal with trade rumors and coming into a season with a lot of unanswered questions for a player like the shoes that Zach is sitting in today. What did you make of how he handled himself?
Well, first of all, I liked how he addressed the questions. He didn't run from it. A couple of them, he just said, hey, I'm not really here to talk about the past. I get it. What I really want to see is that, and I wrote this down. I wrote down 3 words, and
I hope one of them isn't continuity.
No.
Okay, good.
I wrote down, because, they were, Billy and Arturis were talking about he's in great shape.
Yeah, he is.
He's never not been in great shape.
That's a fact.
To me, the 3 things now that I think that he really needs to focus on and excel at and do a better job of is, his basketball IQ. And by no means do I mean that he's a dumb player. I don't want people to jump to any conclusions whatsoever. But like the same issues we talked with Kobe about the game slowing down, taking the next step. Kobe said that it happens different for everybody. And I'm not saying that hasn't happened to Zach either. But Zach's at a point now where he's faced a lot of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've never questioned his physical ability.
Never.
Okay. He's a former All-Star. I think he can be an All-Star again if he can stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to be honest with what's being said here is that he, correct me if I'm wrong, he went from I want to play here to I'm open to the possibility of a trade to it's probably best if, and I'm not sure he said this, but his representation said it's probably best if Zach or my client or however you look at it goes elsewhere, considering the past. All right. Once that genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back.
Pandora doesn't go back into the box.
So
she only comes out.
What I noticed today is that like he was very stoic when he was talking. Okay. So I think that, and this is going to be the hard part for him. I think that he's accepted the fact, quite honestly, that they are looking to trade him. I hope that, his representation and Arturis and Billy are very open with their communication with him on what it is they're attempting to do as they move forward. I think currently they're all on the same page, or they should be. And how quickly, as basketball players, you love to play the game. You love the competition. But you also realize at this level, though, it's not as fun as people think it is because of the expectations that you're trying to rise up to and exceed. Okay. But even when kind of like you talk about a lame duck coach, lame duck president, lame duck whatever, he's kind of a lame duck player a little bit in the sense that he's kind of out on an island floating by himself. I mean, yeah, he's wearing a Bulls uniform, but is he really part of the future? He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And that makes it tough for him. So, when I dealt with that, it makes it tough to come to work sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, they're telling me they got my back. I understand what they're saying, but do they really have my back if I really needed to, lean on them for some answers? So it's hard to sit here and say, man, I feel sorry for this guy. But it's unfortunate that he can't just focus on basketball.
Yeah.
And that's going to wear on him eventually.
Definitely.
The longer he's here, the longer that he is emotionally going to have to deal with this. And that's going to make things really difficult for him. And that's the other thing that we don't think about. It's not just going to make this difficult for him with his teammates, but it's going to make things difficult at home as well.
And I think the thing about focusing on basketball and just basketball would be the thing that optimizes the likelihood that we see the former all-star version of Zach that you were just talking about, Perdue. And that, like, when I was talking to Chanowski about this earlier today before things got started.
Thanks.
Shout out to the legend. Like, this team still needs to, they can say whatever they want to say. They need to showcase Zach LaVine as hopefully a player who still has all-star capability in this league so that they can get some, drum up some interest from some teams, ideally, find a trade partner and move on, while also trying to toe this line and, you mentioned that challenge largely will fall on Billy, developing some of these young guys. But I think you have to get Zach 30 minutes a night. Like, you got to prove that he's healthy. You got to prove that he's capable of being a 20-plus points per game scorer. And how do you do that while also focusing on a new offensive system that is hopefully heavily featuring some of these younger players, Will?
I mean,
Could I say something, though? And let's not mistake the fact, okay? And I apologize for stepping in.
Not at all.
His teammates know what the goal is.
Yeah.
So if the Bulls come out and run a heavy Zach LaVine offense, his teammates get it. They may not be happy about it, but they get it.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, will not be an issue. It's not going to create a rift. It's not going to create problems.
Yeah.
Because these guys, the player today is heavily involved in social media, and so they know exactly what's going on. Because here's the other thing. Management maybe not be talking about it, but these guys are talking about it at dinner. They're talking about it on the plane, talking about it on the bus. Zach, man, what's the latest, man? What have you heard? What's going on? What are they doing with you, man? It's just, because they want to know too, because it affects them. Because you heard Kobe talk about, Debo's not here, and he talked about how he's AC's not here. But he's talking about those personal relationships, how it just tugs at your heartstrings when these guys are no longer here, and how difficult that makes things for you. So these guys have feelings for Zach. They like Zach.
Sure.
I don't ever question that. This team has a good core as far as good guys that are solid. But at the same time now, this is no longer about who these guys are. It's about what these guys can accomplish together.
Yeah, and I don't think that their plan is to just like feed Zach and make him a 25 point per game guy and then try to flip him. Like, I think they are honest when they're talking about, we want to play faster. We want to recreate our identity around some of our new personnel, want to get up and down, want to make life a little bit easier, want to shoot more threes. Like that's stuff that he fits really well into. That's like all part of his strength. So I think for me, if I'm another team, what I want to see out of Zach LaVine before I trade for him is like, can you still be a big time scorer, but also do all the other stuff? Can you run out in transition and make spot up threes, come off screens and attack the basket? Or, you know, if you're the Miami Heat, like, can he come off of those dribble handoffs and pull up? Can he defend? Like those are the things that the Bulls are now asking him to do too. And so I think this is a situation where, and Zach said like the reflection, I think that's what he's talking about, where he understands like his role is going to be a little bit different. What the team is asking of him is going to be a little bit different, and who he needs to be a little bit different. And I think he seems to understand that. And look, he's talented enough to where he's going to thrive no matter what situation the Bulls try to put him in.
Sure.
Because he will get touches the faster they play. Like we've seen that version of Zach before with Lonzo. It looked really good. He was an all-star. So I think he's going to be good. I think, and they are all at a point now where it's like, okay, he's here. Let's figure out a plan. And it seems like they've kind of come to that conclusion.
Can I say something? I know we got to take a break.
Yeah,
just
go
to
ahead, real
take
quick.
this full circle. You just touched on what I mentioned, and I never gave the answer. I said I wrote down 3 things, and I mentioned the first one about IQ. I want to see him get to the next level about how he plays. But we all know he can play defense when he personally makes a decision to lock in.
Yes,
All right.
Yes.
He needs to do that consistently, and also now leadership. And what I mean by leadership, I don't expect him to be leading the huddle and him to be the rah-rah guy. But I'm going to be very transparent here. He's got to be really key because there's 29 teams watching him play every single night. Okay. When I say leadership, we all know, we watch the games. He used to sometimes get buried in the corner and then he would just stand there and pout. Can't do that because now other teams want to see, okay, how do you interact with these younger guys? How are you interacting and helping these younger guys get better? But at the same time, you being the player that we all know you can be. Because we have seen already that those teams that consider themselves to be contenders are making moves, a la New York Knicks, Minnesota Timberwolves. So there are teams
make a move.
When there are teams that think Zach can help them. But they want to be able to, when in these first, let's just say 20 games, they want to see, can Zach check the boxes and we can trust our intuition if we pull the trigger and make this trade.
We all silly like the mayor.